Today we're talking about nationalism and war. Happy 4th of July. Smells like gunpowder.
This is the Jason Carson Show.
All right, guys, welcome back. Thanks for being here. Today we have Josh True as a guest. Thank you so much for being here, Josh.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So let's just get started. I want to talk about nationalism.
Okay.
Just as something that I've been thinking about recently, like with the election of Donald Trump, you saw him and his policies and his agenda that were, everyone agreed on the fact that they weren't traditionally Republican or traditionally conservative. They were much more of a populist nationalist.
Definitely, yeah.
Idea. So, just nationalism as a whole is kind of what I want to start talking about.
Okay.
Here a little bit.
Okay.
So what do you think nationalism is, I guess?
Well, I mean, there's two sides to it. There's nationalism as in, like, patriotism, which is popular in America and a few other countries, not overly popular elsewhere in the world. I know a friend from Japan who goes to the college I go to and she was like, why are you guys so patriotic? And I had a hard time explaining to her, like, it's because we love our country. She didn't really get it. So
yeah,
there's that side of it. And then there's an extreme side of it, kind of like racism, where you actually, like, look down on people of another country. Because, like, oh, they're not from America, so they're worse than me. Which gets into worse areas, which is not, it's not good, obviously, because discrimination is bad. And I prefer to think of it as in the patriotic side of it, because that's more where I feel like I am. Thankfully, not on the other side.
right.
But that's kind of so there's the two sides of it, and you just gotta basically make sure you make known which one you're talking about when you say, oh, it's bad, or oh, it's good, or oh, this person was a nationalist. You gotta define what kind of nationalist you're talking about, or you can be misunderstood.
Exactly. Right, because the one people always pull is, well, Hitler was a nationalist. So in what sense was Hitler a nationalist?
Well, he really loved his country.
Right. Exactly. No, really.
Yeah.
Really. That's the extent of it. And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Right? Loving your country and how and what you see so often is people saying like you were saying, a love for America is essentially a bad thing.
Yes.
As opposed to a love for other countries.
And
right?
Yeah. And it's weird because, like, I know many international students at where I go to college, and they all love their country. I have a friend from Switzerland who loves Switzerland, a friend from Venezuela. He loves Venezuela. He's very upset right now with what's going on in Venezuela.
That's good.
And they all appreciate that, but many of them, not all of them, but many of them, when they hear me and my other American friends talk about, oh, we love America, they're like, oh, America's not that great. Well, it's like, of course not from your opinion, because you're not from America, but we love it just like you love your country. Rather than, because there are Americans out there who are like, who think they can go into any country and be like, oh, I'm an American, and they get a free pass to this, whatever, they should be treated like royalty.
Wait, that doesn't work.
Used to.
Right, exactly.
But then they, lost their respect with messing in other people's business.
Yeah.
But I would say Hitler's a nationalist. Now, he was on the extreme side, obviously, where he said Germans are the best and everyone else should be lesser than and should eventually be killed.
Exactly.
Right.
So there is that side of it, too.
So I guess the question you have to answer is, at what point does being a nationalist cause you to go in a bad direction? Like what specific things? So I basically have a list of things that I think are good nationalism and bad nationalism.
Okay.
Right? So we can just kind of go through those. Celebrating national principles.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's good. That's on the good side.
Encouraging,
what are you saying, Josh?
Encouraging your nation's economy.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Celebrating national achievements.
That's good too.
Right?
Quick question. What if the national achievement was something like winning a war, which caused you, to beat up on another nation?
Okay, that's an excellent question. So I guess that's actually the point I was trying to get to.
Oh.
Is
It's too fast.
but thank you. Yes.
Right.
Is celebrating your nation inherently a good thing? Just the straight up fact of celebrating your nation.
If your nation is awesome, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it totally depends on what you're celebrating. If you're celebrating, oh, our nation became the most literate country in the world, that is an awesome thing. Not because you're more literate than somebody else, but because you have brought literacy to many people.
Yep.
If you celebrate, oh, we beat them in a fight and now they're destroyed and we win, well, that's not great. I mean, you know, as awesome it is, I guess, that you win, like, at what cost are you doing that? Because other countries are still important too, even if they aren't here, you know, as long as, even if we can't see what's going on there, that they still have their own lives that you have to think about when you're celebrating what your country is doing, so.
Yeah.
But then how do you know when you're celebrating something you shouldn't be?
That's a tough one because
You know what I mean?
I don't know that there's a definitive like, oh, this is bad, this is good. I think it really comes down to case by case basis, you know.
Exactly.
I don't think you can say, oh, celebrating all national achievements is bad.
Right.
So basically what you're saying is nationalism is almost a morally neutral thing.
Yes. Depends on how it's lived out.
Right. Exactly. So you're not inherently Hitler because you're a nationalist.
No.
You're also not. That's what I'm saying, and you're also not inherently the best thing for this country because you're a nationalist.
Yes, I would agree.
Right? Like everyone seems to think that Trump is because he's a nationalist and loves America.
Yeah.
That's not.
Donald Trump is definitely the best thing for America.
Right. No. Exactly. So then here are a couple of examples that I thought up of bad nationalism.
Okay.
Blindly following your nation's leaders.
Amen.
What?
So
This is gonna get banned.
No, it's not gonna. No, whatever. You can say whatever you want, Carson. This is America, and that's something we should celebrate, right? So in that sense, I'm a nationalist because I like that in America I can say whatever I want about my nation's leaders.
Yes.
That is true.
Yeah.
While still respecting them and who they are, right?
Okay, so that goes into our point right here.
Yeah.
Ooh.
In what's blindly following your nation's leaders, just the first one on the list.
Right.
What do you think? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by respecting
Well,
them and who
okay,
they
so
are?
like if President Trump was here and he entered the room, I would stand up because he's the president of the United States and I respect his office.
Wait, are we
Right.
supposed to do that?
Also, if
Is that a
anyone
thing?
walked into this room, I would stand up because I'd be like, "What are you doing walking into this room?" Right now?"
That's a good point. That's a
We're
very good
filming.
point. But I hear a lot of people who just disrespect him and actually, I would say, hate him because of either things he's done in the past or policies he has now.
Right.
If you can call it a policy, you know, whatever. But at the same time, he is the president of the United States, and I'd be nice. It'd be nice to meet him. I'm not like looking to meet him because he's Donald Trump, but I'd be looking forward to meeting him because he's the president of the United States.
Right. Sure.
It's more like you
Absolutely.
respect the office, and obviously you respect him because he's a human being. But other than that, you know.
But there's got to be a line for that, though.
I think the line
At
for
some
that
point.
is
Respect is different than total obedience and blind following and such. you know.
Right.
right. If he starts, doing things that are illegal, or starts,
Yeah.
messing with the Constitution and taking away people's rights, that's the line. That's when you don't blindly follow that,
Right.
or give him respect when he's, Hitler. I'm
Right.
not saying Trump's Hitler, but
Trump's not Hitler.
you don't follow
but if
Hitler.
Hitler,
We're a long way
if
off from Hitler.
Hitler
True,
was
exactly.
elected president of the United States,
Right, I would not follow
then
him.
you
If you started-
would you stand up when he came in the room?
No.
Would you
Probably.
respect the office
Really?
and
If
want to
Hitler
meet
was-
him?
Be like, what are you doing here?
Well, exactly.
This.
Different.
How are you alive?
Kind of thing.
Right, yep.
You know.
If it was that one guy from Argentina,
Right.
right?
And he'd be like, no, I'm way too old for this. Was it the
So
only
the
bad
next
thing?
point I have in here is, well, on my list of good things, I have rallying during times of war,
Okay,
and on my bad list, I have supporting unjust wars.
that's good. That's a good distinction because, and I would say that gets into like you have the Vietnam War, which some people were for, some people were against.
Yep.
And while I think if you're against it, it is perfectly fine to peaceful protest against the war. That's okay. But at the same time, when those troops come home,
Right.
you still respect them
Right.
because they fought for your country, and that's the because the troops didn't choose.
Right.
The troops went where they were told.
Right.
And that's the route the country chose.
So where's the line on that one, though? Because if you're a German citizen in the 1940s, I know we always go back to
Hitler.
How about if you're a Italian citizen, in the 40s, and
Same story.
you know what I mean
Different
though.
names.
You know what I mean though. If you're a citizen from that kind of country,
Yeah.
and the troops come back,
Well,
but
they lost.
you're personally opposed to Nazism, you're just living in
Yeah.
Germany.
Well, I mean,
What do
it
you do
depends
then?
where this
And
whole-
not that I'm even remotely saying that the people who went
No,
to
no,
Vietnam were Nazis or anything like that.
No, I get that.
But just that some people think what they did was wrong. So, and you're saying, well, even if you think it's wrong, you should support what they're doing because your country.
Well, and I would say with the, I mean, you can look at like, okay, were they forced to fight? Forced, obviously you can always resist, but were they like with
Right.
Hitler, he forced everybody to join the army. Not saying what they did was right,
Mhm.
but you have to remember that when you're saying, "Oh, you terrible person."
Right.
And at the same time, there's like wars that are like, okay, this is just, and there's wars that are like, okay, this is unjust,
Mhm.
as in Hitler and Mussolini, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's wars that are like, I really don't know. Or
Mhm.
maybe you think this way, other people think this way, And so I just feel like, once again, it's a case by case basis. You have to gauge, like, did this person do something inherently wrong by
Mhm.
following his country's orders and going to this country, or is it like in this area of like, well, it depends on their own motives.
Mhm.
If they're going there and they're like, yes, I want to kill all these people, well, that's not good,
Mhm.
obviously. And
Right.
but if they're there like, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I swore an oath saying I would obey the Constitution and uphold and follow the government, or obey my commanders would be a better way to say
Yeah.
that. And this doesn't directly go against a moral principle that
Right. So it would be like following someone into something you think is unwise or not strategic, and is going to get some people killed, as
Yes.
opposed to marching into another country to take it over because your country is better.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
And a lot of people give nationalism a bad rap because of World War One, where
Okay.
people say, "Oh, well, nationalism. Look what happened in World War One. It caused all these people to die." Well, there was support for the countries. That's how they got people.
Mhm.
That's how they got the people into the war. But if you look at actually how the war started, it was Serbia. Serbian assassinates the Austro-Hungary guy, and then all these other countries who have nothing to do with this are all of a sudden invested in this country just because of their national interests. Whatever that means.
Right.
So it's really not nationalism that started World War One as much as rather just meddling in other people's business. If
Right, no, exactly.
Russia and Germany and France had all stayed out of Austria-Hungary and Serbia's business, you would have just had a smaller war between those two countries.
Right.
It's still not good, but better than a World War One.
Right.
So I would say when people say nationalism caused World War One, we have to look at that and say,
Mhm.
no, rather, bad foreign policy caused World War One.
No, exactly. And that ties back to the point you were making earlier. Right? You were saying that if you live in a country and the government goes to war with something and you disagree with the war, those who do agree with the war tend to say, well, you should just support the troops because our country is good.
Yes.
Right? So is that intellectually lazy, I guess is my question.
Maybe. I mean, yeah. Like Vietnam is a really gray area because like there's so much like, oh well, we were there originally training South Vietnam to fight, but it turned into, oh, we are fighting North Vietnam. And so like with that one, I respect Vietnam veterans.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I just don't know where you draw the line. I don't really know where you draw the line between I respect this person because they went and fought for a country in a war that I may not have wholeheartedly agreed with, and this person went and fought in a war and did what I consider actually wrong, and
Right.
therefore I don't pay them respect.
So much more often it's a question of I don't respect the people who send them over there,
Yes.
which is like 95% of the time I don't.
Yeah, actually.
But
it is.
yeah.
Okay.
So
I don't know if we actually answered the question, but
no, but we're exploring it.
yeah.
I felt like I had another point on that though. Yeah. So my point is, why does often nationalism get blamed for war, but just in the sense of why is it expected that you have to why is it expected that you have to support the wars your country is in just because it's your country?
I think it goes back to, I mean, this is why I think countries are good, free
Mhm.
countries, because I can live here and I can agree with the principles the United States stands for generally,
Mm-hmm.
and based on those, and typically, at least how it should be, is that based on those principles, the country goes to war, and therefore, if I
Right.
agree with those principles, I would agree with going to war. That's how it, in a perfect world, which doesn't exist, it should be.
Okay.
And if I don't like those principles, I move to a new country where I more agree with their guidelines and their. That's where I feel like you would want to be. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily work with some countries, whether you can't leave or it's a closed country or, all these different things. And obviously, the principles are ambiguous. So I think it's kind of like states, where if you don't like how this state does things, well, move to a new state. Like, that's how it's supposed to work. That's supposed to provide competition and therefore make the states be looking for, like, countries should look for what their citizens want in principles, or have a set of principles and stick to them. And therefore,
I like that better than the first one. But
yes, I do too. Actually, that's why I added it.
Right.
And therefore, they use those principles, and the people that live there theoretically agree to those principles. And so when they go to a war based on those principles, the people should technically agree with the war. Generally, I feel like.
Right. Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But how often does a government actually act upon the principles that it was founded upon?
Always, 100%.
No,
they're great people.
I mean, really though.
Not very much. Not very much.
So
where do you go?
What you just prescribed would be perfect.
Yes.
In a perfect world.
Too bad it doesn't exist.
But it's not just that sometimes that has flaws. It's like that literally never happens.
Yeah.
Except in the cases of your country's principles are our country is the greatest and we're going to take over all the other countries. In that case, then your country's principles always, come to the forefront. Right? So you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah, that makes sense. So then you're asking, how do you draw the line? In reality,
right.
How do you draw the line? I don't know. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
For me, like, it would depend on. I think right now I'm registered for the draft because I am in that age group, and if there was a war and I had to go, I'd probably go. Yep. Because I don't think I can get an exception.
Right? Don't you have to go? Is that what the draft is?
They're gonna eventually fine you and put you in prison.
Or you can fail boot camp. To say you can't do monkey bars.
Yeah.
Or just not be able to do monkey bars too. You could do that, Carson.
I feel like if I told them I couldn't do monkey bars, they would not believe me.
They would make you do it, and then you.
Yeah. But if it was say there was a war without a draft, I would look at that war and say, okay, what are we fighting for? What is the goal? What is if I don't fight and say we lose? What are the consequences of that? Why are we doing this? There's so much in there, and obviously, there may be multiple. You may have like every war. There's no one cause. There are many causes, and so I think it goes back to case by case. Like I hate to keep saying that over and over again, but
no, it makes sense.
You really have to use your brain and look at each scenario and say, okay, this is worth it. This is something I believe I should stand for and I should fight for. And they're say, no, maybe not this one. That's a little bit shifty.
Right.
So, but basically, from what I can wrap my head around, that doesn't sound like nationalism to me.
It does not. Oh, because you're not just going with your country.
Right.
Well, now you could be abstaining because you don't believe the fight is
good for your country. Yeah. That's fair.
Of course, the question is, if you're in a war and it's not good for your country.
What are you doing, Carson?
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Because that's going to all be on
interesting
camera.
than what I was saying.
Are they both still recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we went more than 20 minutes, but okay.
We may have.
18.
18 minutes?
Okay.
Do we need to wrap up in 20 though?
Well, we can wrap up like soon, and then if we
Alright.
want
No,
to
we'll
talk
come
more,
to
we
a
can
break.
start again.
No,
Yeah,
that's cool.
that's
That's
fine.
cool.
Hit your last point, and then we'll take a break.
Well, I was just going to say that you have to weigh between, okay, you don't agree with this, what your country's fighting for. And then as a nationalist, you look at, is it better for my country if we win or lose? Because you're already in the war. And if I don't fight, obviously whether or not you fight is probably not going to determine the outcome of the war. It might, but probably not.
Right.
But you have to determine, as a nationalist, is it better for us to win or lose this war that I might not necessarily agree with? However, you also have to look at the receiving end of that war. If we win this war, is it better for us to lose this war and suffer a few consequences than to, like, impose on another country and have them suffer even worse consequences?
Or to set a precedent that
yes,
it's okay to go to war
because
for not a good reason.
Nationalism is good, obviously, to a certain point, and that point is, are you discriminating against other people? Are you saying our good is more worth it than yours? So if you have this war you don't agree with, and you look at it and say, okay, this is good. These are the good consequences. If we win, there are bad consequences. You have to look at, are you discriminating against that country by saying it's better for us to win?
Okay, we gotta go to a break.
All right,
Okay.
go to a break.
We will be back.
We'll be right back. right, guys, welcome back. We're here again. Actually, it's just never. Yeah, I don't know.
Still here.
We're just still here. Talking about nationalism and war is what we got into a little bit. But basically, what I'm gathering from this is nationalism isn't exactly an absolute.
Oh no, definitely not.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about war. Let's move into a couple other things here.
Okay.
Go up. How about pledging allegiance to the state?
Ooh. See, that's a tough one because are you pledging allegiance to the state or to
the nation?
Or to the nation or to
And
founding principles?
What's the difference?
Or do the people there?
Well, I mean, there's a big difference between the state and the founding principles.
Right, I know. What is it? Just kind of elaborate on it a little bit.
Carson? No. No. I think it comes down to, well, the state has drifted from those founding principles, moved to more centralized government, more power in the government, expanded government. So when you pledge allegiance, again, I don't remember how the Pledge of Allegiance goes. Sorry, everybody.
What?
But when you pledge allegiance to the government, you are pledging your allegiance to something that changes, and that can be more dangerous because
that's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah.
You can pledge allegiance to something originally, but then it changes, and you pledge allegiance to this government, and now you're theoretically pledged to this thing you might not agree with. Whereas if you pledge to the founding principles, the founding principles of America have been the same. They have not really changed. Even if the government has drifted from them, they are still the same, and that may be a little bit better. Obviously, it's not the Bible, but but it can be good. It really depends on what the founding principles are. I agree with most of the founding principles of America. Part of the reason why I like America.
Right.
But like again, there was a founding principle, maybe not a principle, but founding rule of slavery originally.
And you
don't
like
necessarily agree with that.
okay.
Sorry. Plot twist. No.
Yeah, right.
I
might be a nationalist, but
and yeah, I mean, I think it depends on that. And I don't know that there's a difference between nation as in nation could be more as in good of the nation rather than government of the nation. If there's a difference between nation and government, I don't know. Is that
right? That's exactly what I was getting at. What is the difference between pledging your allegiance to your nation and loving your nation and saying I'm proud to be an American, wearing a shirt that's got a big eagle on it, and then the next second saying, man, I just hate the government.
Yeah, I mean, it
know.
Yeah, it comes down to, is the government consistent with what the nation is supposed to stand for?
Right. So, and even to pull this more broadly from specifically American nationalism, can you be a nationalist and a small government guy? Can you be a nationalist and a libertarian? Can you be a nationalist and a constitutional conservative? That kind of a mindset. Can those both be? Are those both compatible?
I would say you can be a nationalist and a constitutional conservative because you can be a nationalist too. Well, I guess maybe we wouldn't call it nationalist because you holding to the principles, founding principles. I don't know if you'd call that a nationalist or a principalist or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
But a libertarian, I mean, that's more vague once you get into political party definitions. That's tricky. What was the other one?
I don't know.
Small government
guy. Yeah.
I would say so in the sense of wanting the good of your nation because I think small government helps the economy, which is good for your nation, and honestly good for everybody else too, even not in your nation. And I would say it all goes back to how extreme the nationalism is. You know, I am nationalist in the sense that I like my country, I'm patriotic, and I want the good of my country, not necessarily at the expense of the good of other countries. Like I don't want.
That's interesting.
I don't necessarily want to hurt other countries in order to make us better.
Right.
Do you want to do that?
Basically, yeah.
What?
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
No.
Basically,
Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to intentionally hurt other countries in order to make ours great. Right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to just march into other countries and take their stuff.
What's the next one?
What I want to do is pursue our national interests.
That's a very vague term.
I want to pursue. I was about to say more and then just said something. I want to pursue our national interests.
That's really vague, Chase. What are you talking about? No. We need more depth.
I want to pursue our national interests without having to worry about other nations' national interests.
Okay.
I want to.
And for me, I agree with that in the sense that national interests, as in staying out of other people's war business, typically.
Yep.
And I'm okay with, economic relations as long as we don't get trapped,
Yeah.
So in that sense, national interest, and that national interest is another thing that changes a lot.
Yep.
What is our national
Right,
interest in the
exactly.
Middle East? What is our national interest at home?
Yep.
So, depending on what exactly we're talking about when you say national interest, I could agree with you there. Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. But
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Right. It's the difference between people constantly talking about how war is bad just because people die,
Oh yeah.
and saying no, going to war for unjust reasons is bad because it's not our job and you're spending our resources, our blood and treasure in other
Yes.
countries, and you shouldn't do that.
Or we're fighting for the wrong side or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think
Where
it
do we
just
pull
goes
that
back
back
to
from, though?
how
Yeah.
extreme it is and how you measure the extremity.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Extremity.
It sounds like
You
a
said
word.
it
I
It
don't know.
does.
How you measure the extremity. Maybe we should
extremity.
we should make the episode called that. How do you measure the extremity?
I don't know. It
It
sounds
should
pretty
be a
good.
word.
It sounds pretty
It
good.
probably
There you
is. Yeah. The extremity.
So I guess this next point was kind of what I said. In what ways does nationalism relate to liberty? Does it inherently protect or threaten it? Kind of what I was talking about.
No, not really. I mean, it just depends on what you're nationalist toward your nation's founding principle, like your nation's government, the good of your nation. Maybe
Mhm.
you're just a nationalist in the sense of economics,
Mhm.
where you want to preserve your nation's economy
Mhm.
rather than maybe you don't. I mean, military is important, but maybe you personally aren't as caring about that as more as the economy is what helps us thrive and what makes us prosperous and stuff. So maybe you're just in that sense. There's so many variations within that. I understand why some people don't like it because they view it as this Hitler type,
Right.
but they need to look at the broader spectrum.
Uh-huh.
Nationalism is not a one sentence, this is what it is. Nationalism is this huge category of there's
Mhm.
all this different stuff in there.
Mhm. It's unlike something like capitalism,
Yes.
where I would blindly subscribe to any nation and it would do better.
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of, actually.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't necessarily do that with nationalism.
No. Yeah, definitely
So
not.
you can so in a sense, you believe in American nationalism, not necessarily nationalism.
Yeah. American nationalism, but it's still there.
Right,
But
right.
the main point of it, yes.
Yes.
I am very nationalistic.
Nationalistic.
Is that a word?
I
Sure.
think- I don't know.
That's more of a word than
nationalistic
the other one.
toward the founding principles found in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence.
Yep.
Not necessarily as much toward the current government.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's basically what it comes down to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's such a paradigm shift between people who in the more recent generations just hate America for no reason.
Because my grandpa said America did this terrible thing to us.
Exactly.
Whatever.
And they don't quite understand completely why, so their default position is to be against it.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes the flip side of that is the default position is to be for it, no matter what. Also,
Yes,
How do you
yes,
have
and
two
that's
default
dangerous.
positions?
it's not the default position. Well,
That would make
it's the
sense.
it's the reverse
People
of the
think
default.
there's
On the
only two
opposite, I
options.
said on the opposite end,
Oh,
the default position is.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
People seem to think there's these only two camps when in reality there's a big area in between.
Right, exactly. No, I think that's kind of the point I was trying to get at, and we all made it there, so that's awesome.
well done.
Hopefully everyone else did. Should we wrap it up? I have
Oh my
one more
gosh.
question.
Why
but
do
it's
you
I have
do that?
another question, but it's probably going to open up a huge.
Okay, well, I mean,
So-
you can do whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
If you do it, we can cut it out. If you don't, we can't.
We're going for it. That is true.
Okay. here
We'll
goes.
do. See you next week. Now we'll continue, and then if we don't like it, we'll just cut it there.
No, that doesn't work at all.
That's
That doesn't even remotely work. We're just gonna quickly go into it. So here's the question: if nationalism helps states keep power,
Yeah.
why does the school system oppose teaching nationalism in America?
Do they?
Because I think
If you're operating from a more liberal perspective,
Okay,
that
yeah.
nationalism and saying the Pledge of Allegiance and all that kind of thing is, supporting, I guess not even necessarily liberal, but more like I would say left libertarian. That all
Okay,
these things
yeah.
support the government, therefore we shouldn't celebrate America,
so
basically.
Okay, so why is the culture shunning nationalism
Mhm.
while even though it seems like it would be supportive of it?
Right.
I would say because most of the people who truly understand nationalism are nationalistic toward toward the founding principles, which
Uh-huh.
is not what the government stands for.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right about that.
And I mean, obviously, you have people all over the place, but I think the majority of the people who really have thought about this are the ones that really care
Mm-hmm.
about why are we doing this now when this worked so well and this is what we were founded on.
Right.
So I think that's basically what it
Right. Exactly.
sums up.
No, I agree with you.
Hey, we got that segment in.
We
and
got
it
that
didn't
in,
take
and it
up
didn't even take
too long.
forever. That's awesome. All right.
It also helps that I knew what you were going to ask because we read your question beforehand.
You did?
No.
Okay.
What?
Okay. All right. Well, that was an awesome episode.
That was a good episode.
Thanks so much, Josh, for
Yeah,
coming.
no problem.
It was fun.
Appreciate it.
Cool.
And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
If you like our content, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. I literally just did that.
Woo!
I said, though.
Stop. Listen, it is so easy. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
That's what I did.
Watch our other videos.
That's what I did.
That was horrible. Do better.